The Great Gospel of John, Volume 1. Near Sychar at Jacob's well. Chapter 29. Continuation of the scene. Healing of the woman and her testimony for the found Messiah. John chapter 4, verse 27. At that moment his disciples returned from the town with the purchased foods, and were astonished to find him talking with the woman. But none of them said, "What are you asking her?" or "Why are you talking with her?" This statement gave the woman a shock, and that all the more, because at that moment the disciples returned with food from the town and were astonished to find me talking to this woman. But none of them dared ask me or the woman what we had done or discussed together. The other travelling companions, however, including my mother who was present too, were so fast asleep that they could hardly be roused. The long march had worn all of them out. Finally, also, the one disciple returned from the little village who had gone to look for a vessel to draw water, but had not found one. He apologized and said, "Lord, the little village numbers about 20 houses, but there was not a single person at home, and all the doors were safely locked." To this I replied, "Never mind about that, for behold, naturally and especially spiritually, this is still going to happen to us frequently, that we, driven by the thirst of our love, shall knock at people's doors, hearts, looking for a vessel to draw the living water, but we shall find the hearts locked and empty. Do you understand this allegory?" Says the disciple, quite moved and disconcerted, "Lord, my dear Master, unfortunately I have indeed understood you. But if that is so, we are not going to be very successful." Say I, "And yet, my brother, look at this woman. I tell you, it is worth more to find one who is lost than 99 righteous, who according to their conscience are not in need of penitence, since they believe to be serving God every Sabbath on Mount Gerizim. They even remove from here on the eve of Sabbath all vessels for drawing water, so that on the Sabbath no one may draw water from the well to quench his thirst, whereby, in the eyes of the righteous, the Sabbath would be desecrated. Oh, for the great blind foolishness of such righteous! But here a sinner is standing with a good water jar at our service. Say, who is better, this one or the 99 Sabbath observers on Mount Gerizim?" The woman, however, says full of remorse, "Lord, you Son of the Eternal, here is my jar, use it. I am leaving it here for your service. But let me hurry back to the town, for I am standing here before you in too unworthy attire." Say I, "Woman, be healed, and do what you think is right." John, verse 4, chapter 28. The woman left her water jar behind, and hurried into the town, where she said to the people. Weeping with joy, the woman leaves her water jar and the well, and hurries into the town, but on her way looks back many times, saluting, for she loves me mightily. Almost out of breath, the woman arrives in the town, where she meets a group of men walking up and down a shady lane, as they usually do on a Sabbath. The men, who knew the woman, asked her jokingly, "Well, well, why in such a hurry? Where is it burning?" The woman looks at them with loving earnest and says, "Oh, do not joke, you dear men, for our time has become more serious than you may imagine." John chapter 4, verse 29. Come and see a man who, sitting outside at Jacob's well, and told me everything I ever did. Could not this be the Christ, the promised Messiah? Here the men interrupt her and ask, full of anxious curiosity, Now, what is it? Are enemies coming into our land, or is a swarm of locusts approaching our district? The woman, quite exhausted, says, Nothing of that kind. The matter is much greater and most extraordinary. Listen to me quietly. Already an hour ago, I went to Jacob's well to fetch some midday water, and there I found a man sitting on the stone curb of the well, who first looked definitely like a Jew to me. When I, hardly paying any attention to him, had drawn my water from the well, this man spoke to me asking for a drink from my water jar. I refused this, thinking that he was a Jew. But he spoke again, wise like an Elias, and told me everything I had ever done. Finally, he turned the conversation to the Messiah, and when I asked him where, how, and when the Messiah would be coming, he looked at me with loving earnest and said, in a voice penetrating to my very marrow, It is I who now speaks to you. Already earlier, when he had told me how sick I am, I had asked him whether I could not get well again. And now, in the end, he said to me, Be healed. And look, my malady flew out of me like the wind, and now I am in complete health. Do go out there and see for yourselves whether that is not truly Christ, the promised Messiah. I am convinced that he is, for greater signs that this man is performing also Christ could not perform. So do go out and convince yourselves, but I am hurrying home to put on better clothes, for as I am now, I could not face his glory. Even if he is not Christ, he is certainly more than a prophet or a king of the people. Say the men, Yes, if so, this time would really be most serious and of greatest importance. We should go out there in greater numbers, and among us should be a few who are well versed in Scripture. It is unfortunate that today all our rabbis are on the mountain, but maybe he can be persuaded to stay in our midst for a few days. Then these also could examine him. John chapter 4, verse 30. They came out of the town and made their way towards him. Thereupon they invite still others to go with them to Jacob's well, and now a crowd of close on 100 people of both sexes sets out to see the Messiah.